Welcome once again to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 29-year veteran writer, illustrator, and editor of comics, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games. And tonight is What Did You Get This Week? Discussion, what you bought in the comic shops this week, or what you got in the mail from your crowdfunding. If you got something that you want to share, mention it in the chat. In the meantime, I'll review what I've got this week. And we'll start with back issue 131, which I really didn't get this week. I got it last week, but I got around to reading it this week. $9.95. Tomorrow's publishing. Various writers with artists featured, including Jack Kirby, Steve Rude, Ryan Sook, Dave Gibbons, Steve Bissette, Rick Veitch, and more. Genres Interview, Historical Review Magazine, released October 21st. 2021. This edition of Back Issues theme is the legacy of Jack Kirby at DC Comics. There's various articles around the New Gods, Sandman, Etrigan the Demon, Kamandi, OMAC, and more. And not just about Kirby's specific contributions, but what other creators did with these characters after Jack was long gone from DC. It's another excellent edition of Back Issue. The Etrigan the Demon article talks about the Alan Moore, Steve Bissette, Rick Veitch Swamp Thing era, including the infamous Swamp Thing 88 story, where Swamp Thing is the cross Jesus is crucified on, that was never released. Matt Wagner then talks about his 1987 Etrigan the Demon miniseries. There's also a number of different eras of Kamandi talked about that were quite interesting to read about. I always enjoy reading these historical review magazines about titles of the past. Often they make me want to either pull out my collection, reread the stuff that I already have, or track down works I haven't read before. I recommend it for ages 12 and up, or anyone with an interest in comic book history. Rating 5 stars. And here is the magazine. And we'll take a quick look at some of the pages inside. We'll start out with Jack's stuff here with the Demon. With the articles. Kirby with Mike Royer, who was one of his inkers back then. Somehow the Demon looked in other languages. There you go. It'll be printed overseas. When they talk about his appearances in Brave and the Bold and Superman, Super Team, DC Comics Presents, and then the Stephen Bissette article about his stuff using Etrigan that featured in Swamp Thing there, in Saga of the Swamp Thing. And then, of course, after Steve, they get Rick, and there's the cover of the infamous cross there. Let me talk a little bit about that. I'm going to zip past into Kamandi stuff a little bit. Beautiful, nice illustration there of basically Kamandi's Planet of the Apes, let's face it. But you know, talk with Jerry Conway, and they talk with Paul Levitz, and who's the other one? Trying to find the one. Jack C. Harris, I think, is the one that I was trying to think of. But there's a nice cover image there. So there's a lot of cool stuff in here about that. They talk about Black Magic and Boy Commandos as well. So lots of cool stuff in here. Excellent magazine. Mark Anderson says, impressive that they're able to put it out every month. I remember they did a magazine called Right Now that I enjoyed. I don't know if they're still doing Drawn Right Now as often, but I think they still do them, just not as often. Our next book is Holler, number 4, from It's Alive Publishing, $5.99. Writer, illustrator Jeremy Massey. Genre is coming of age rock and roll. Released October 21st. It's actually 27th, not 21st. This actually came out this week. This is a very sad but excellently produced issue of Holler, in which a group of redneck kids steals Cassie's purse, which had a photo of their bass player of the group, Dave, being kissed by a guy, which they taped up in public. Now, if you've been reading the story, you know that Dave is gay, but he hadn't come out publicly yet, of course, as this is a very Christian anti-LGBTQ community and era in West Virginia in the early 1990s when the story is taking place. Ultimately, Dave gets suspended from school because he got into a fight with the jerk who posted the photo up where everybody could see it in the hallway in school. And so his dumbass mother pulls him from school and ships him off to live with his dad in Ohio to go to a private Christian school, or they will, of course, treat him like shit and try to fix him. Mark, Phil, Jay, and Cassie all have different reactions to this turn of events. Phil's livid at Rhino, the redneck jerkwad, to take the photo up where everyone could see it in school, and starts a fight with him. Jay is more worried about getting a replacement bass player than he is about anything else, which I'm not really sure was the intention of the author, but it might have been, but it didn't make him very likable in this issue. Mark is just angry at the situation, and Cassie is livid that Rhino's girlfriend Skeeter stole her purse, which had the photo inside in the first place. So ultimately, the band and Cassie, who's not really in the band, she's Jay's girlfriend, and Rhino's clique throw down on the outskirts of town and beat the crap out of one another until the cops are coming and they split and go their separate ways, basically. I'm not sure what good it does the band, though, because Dave still ends up moving away and he's gone, and it's really a shame. All in all, it's just a really well-crafted story that just so happens to be very sad and bittersweet. What I thought was, this is not what I expected in this issue. Honestly, I was almost expecting Mark getting in a fight with his ex-girlfriend Jennifer's new beau and getting his ass kicked based on the cover. This whole story sort of came out of nowhere for me. The story was kind of set up in earlier issues, but I guess I just hadn't seen it coming yet, which is actually a good thing, because as a result, it's just sort of a shock to the reader, I think, because we're kind of blindsided by it, just as the characters are, and we're kind of reacting to it in the same way that the characters are. I don't know if that would still hold true if the book came up more often. The last issue came out last May, so 5 months ago. Even though I'm not blaming Jeremy for that, or even It's Alive as a publisher. There's a lot of factors involved in that, what with COVID and shipping problems everywhere. So, I don't know. I don't think it was meant to come out quite this late. I think it was supposed to come out a month or two ago. But anyway, I just wish Jeremy could get the book out on a bi-monthly schedule and build some momentum, because it is a sorely overlooked series that should get some credit. And more fans out there for it. I recommend for ages 16 and up. It is a 4-star book. Here's the book. And here's Phil after the fight with a big black eye and bloody nose on the back. This is the ones these are the idiots who stole the photo out of Cassie's purse. He's, basically just redneck trucker boy. And they got a Polaroid that Cassie took of Dave while they were out, on their own. And, they had the picture of the guy kissing him. And you can see they tape it right up in the center of the trophy area where the jocks can see it, where the jocks are going to beat up the gay people anyway. So that's the kind of thing we had back then. Of course, Dave really can't fight this big hick boy, so Phil stands up for his friend. And Phil and Rhino get kicked out, and Dave gets kicked out because of it. And, they go to the principal, and the principal, of course, tells her mom because the principal's a dumb bitch. But, so, it's really, sad that sort of thing happens. So, anyway, I should show you a little bit more of this. I do like the fight scene at the end. Friday, 6 o'clock, the park. They're waiting. Here come the redneck jerk squad. And they're just staring at each other, basically not going to do anything, And finally, Cassie's the one that actually throws the first and just throws down and just starts tearing the crap out of Skeeter, Rhino's girlfriend, for not just for what she did today, but just for stealing her purse and everything else, So once those two are at it, well, I guess everybody else gets into it. It's a really good issue, though. Grant Lankard says, "Hey, Liz. Hey, Grant, how are you tonight? Hope you're doing well." Our next book is Strange Attractors number 5 for $5.99, the 2021 edition. This is the cover B retro cover first, shown here. Publishers, It's Alive. Creators are Mark Sherman and Michael Cohen. There's 3 covers, and I didn't get the variant cover written correctly. That's last issues. That's not Bat and Lash. This issue is by Drew Hayes, the late Drew Hayes of Poison Helps fame. But anyway, there is the retro cover, again, shown, standard cover, and the variant. And I'll show you all 3 as we go here. But what it's about is Sophie, a curator of a fantastic museum, is caught up in an adventure involving science, magic, mathematics, and comic books. In this issue, while trapped in the collector's fortress, Sophie learns the secrets of the Moon Marauders, who are this group of characters that she's been reading in comic books, and she finds out who they really were and what they're really about. It's pretty much the same as I've always said about this book. It's plot heavy. It's a thinking reader's comic where you kind of have to pay attention to the clues and really read the book, because the authors aren't going to spoon feed everything to you the way a lot of people in comics do. They want to just thump you over the head with the points. This is the actual main cover that you see here. The collector was one of the Moon Marauders, and she explains to Sophie how the comics she's read all about them all her life are basically just propaganda rags that only tell a shade of the truth, not the whole story. And when Sophie explains what she knows about experiences of the Moon Marauders after the Collector left the group, while the Collector is pleased to know the fate of some of her former enemies, she still considers Pirate Peg, Sophie's friend and ally in this adventure, to be a traitor and still plans to execute her. And it kind of makes one laugh because the Collector acts sort of like a comics van turned villain. It's an interesting character quirk. But again, this is the main cover. This is the retro cover. And then this is the Drew Hayes cover, which is my favorite of the three. I really would like to know where they got the art for this, though, because Drew died back in 2007. Where has this image been hiding all this time? I don't remember seeing it before. That doesn't mean it wasn't there. I could have very easily just don't remember seeing it in the original run, or it could have been something that Michael Cohen had in his personal collection and just pulled it out recently. Recommended for ages 16 and up. It is 3.5 stars. Again, this is the Drew Hayes variant. I would recommend getting this one of the three. I get all three just because, but if you're going to get just one, get the Drew Hayes variant. Again, this is the main cover. It's a nice looking cover for what it is. And I'll show you a little bit of the interior art here. And remember, this stuff was originally published back in the mid to late 90s, so this artwork is 20 years old. And it still holds up pretty darn well, if you ask me. And there's Sophie, who's been captured, and the Collector's confronting her about different things. And she's explaining her history with Peg and the other Moon Marauders. And they're having an argument over whether or not to invade an enemy territory, basically. And Peg's basically saying, well, either we do it now or we end up getting caught and being imprisoned anyway. So choice is simple. Go in and break it and get what we need so they can't do it to us, more or less. So that's the main story there. Again, here's the close-up of the retro. This is actually, when I say the retro cover, this is the original cover that was run back in the 90s. And I'll show you the back cover. All of them have the same back cover. And then, of course, the Drew Hayes cover. Trying to get, there we go. Trying to get so you don't have too much of reflection on there, but okay. Our next book is called This Land. We're going to talk a little bit about 1 through 3. This is a Kickstarter project from Aroha Comics. It's $21 US plus shipping. That's for all 3 issues. I got it, received it in the mail on October 18th, so about 10 days ago. The writer is Mark Abnett. The artist is, I'm going to try and pronounce this, Przemysław Dedilis. The colors by Lizel Buenaventura. The letters by Hassan Asmani El How. The genre is postmodern myth fantasy type comic. It's set in the future New Zealand, Aotearoa. The world has been ripped apart when Earth's moon has been destroyed by a terrorist attack. Technology on Earth is dead, and those who have been left behind have been changed by ancient energies being pulled from the Earth, the powers of gods. And now the last gods have returned, and they are not happy with what they have found. Helena, which is the girl that you saw on the front first issue there, the red lava girl, daughter of Axelin, and seemingly the only person who is a godling herself and can understand the fallen deity. I gotta explain this. Maori god Tane has fallen from the sky and crash landed, and she's the only one who can understand him. And she strikes a deal with the vessel of this Maori god and assembles a group of mercenaries against her own people in order to clear her name of false charges of the past and to bring her Wanao, also known her family, back to the brink of death. Back from the brink of death, I should say. Some of these names or words you're seeing are actual Maori words, because a lot of this stuff is actually done in a combination of Maori language, and it has translations in the book, but it also has a link to a site where you can actually read everything and translate it and learn their language. Together, this group must escort the vessel of the Maori god Tane through a world in search of the demigod Maui, facing many different adversities, both worldly and otherworldly alike, along the way. The story interweaves a postmodern, post-apocalyptic Earth with traditional mythologies and histories of the Maori of New Zealand, creating an interesting blend of story, as most American audiences know next to nothing of Maori culture or of New Zealand's history. In that respect, it is intended to both entertain and educate readers about the culture to a level of degree, or to inspire more research about those things from the audience or reader. Of course, this is the cover to number 2. And this is the cover to number 3. Now, I was only able to really get issue number 1 fully read so far. I did browse through issues 2 and 3. I have an idea of what's going on in the story. What I have read fully, it has been very well told. What I browsed through looks really interesting, and it's visually engaging. It's still a basic quest story at the heart of things, and I kind of have to wait and see how well the characters develop and interact with one another in issues 2 and 3 before I can really give a full proper grading for everything. But based on what I've read and glossed over so far, it's a solid above average title. That having been said, with it being a crowdfunded book through Kickstarter, some of you may have a hard time tracking it down. My advice is to look up Mark Abnett or Aloha Comics online through Kickstarter, or just Aloha Comics online, and see what they still have in stock. It is recommended for ages 13 and up. My rating for issue number 1 is 3.5 stars, but for the overall series, it's undetermined. I will be back with more on that next week. What t-shirt does you wear now withstanding? It's just a dragon shirt. Just a blue dragon t-shirt. There you go. Something I found probably at Walmart. Grant Lankard says, sounds complicated. Which one are you talking about? About this land? It's not really that bad. I think that, like I said, you can learn quite a bit from it. It's enjoyable. I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's that bad. Let me move that over a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the interior art from this land. This is issue number 1. Very good glossy cardstock cover, heavy paper stock in the production value. And as you can see, you know, they give you the Maori Dictionary .co.nz that you can look up online or check up Google App Stores. This is 52 years after the death of technology, so we're talking, in the future, basically. And they're sitting around a fire with the family, and Helena is telling them about the history of different Maori mythology. And the kids really don't want to know that. They want to know about how she got her abilities. Because she's actually making all of that fire stuff with her own abilities. So she's kind of like a godling herself. Mm-hmm. And then they go to the history and show us the history of what happened. And we found a place to transfer a world to go migrate to. And of course, the 1%ers are the only ones that are going to go and leave everybody else behind while Earth is kind of stuff. So what happens is they put dynamite bombs in the shipment for the transports, and when they get there by the moon, the explosion's so bad it blows up in parts of the moon, which, if this actually happened in real life, would destroy the Earth anyway for multiple reasons. But yeah, the fact that we survived, okay, cool. This is where the godling Tane shows up out of the sky, crashes on the beach. I don't know if you can see there. Yeah, you can see all those figures. Those are the kids that are caught up in that explosion. And he walks away from the explosion, and all the kids are trapped inside these crystalline entity, basically. So she has to make a deal with him to get him to where he wants to meet Maui so that she can free her family from that state. It's a pretty cool book overall. And in the first issue, she's going through all the different members of people who are possibly going to join her mercenary group. And then when she finally finds her group, she breaks the guy out of jail and says, "Come on, let's go." So that's the end of the first issue. The second two, I'm not going to get too much into right now, but pretty cool stuff overall. All right. Last one is USAGI YOJIMBO, number 23, $3.99. The publisher is IDW Publishing. Writer-illustrator Stan Sakai with colors by Hi-Fi Design. The genre is anthropomorphic samurai adventure, released October 27th, 2021. This is Ransom Part 2 of 3. Kyoko has been kidnapped and is held for ransom by boss Hasegawa. He wants the ledger of bribes that Kitsune had stolen in Part 1. Usagi, Yukichi, and Kitsune know that they very well could be walking into a trap, but they find aid from a very unexpected source. Or do they? How far can they trust someone that they know will betray them? My main thought is, why isn't this book one of the most top-selling comics in America today? Manga's supposed to be hot, right? This is manga. Why aren't comic stores marketing this book better? It is, all ages. It's cool stories. There's just, it's one of the most perfect comics we have on the market, and it doesn't seem to sell. It only sells about 5,000 or 6,000 units through IDW every month, and that's not really much of anything. It's just not right. Recommended for ages 10 and up, 5 stars, as always. Here's the book. Okay, there you go. That's enough of that. But it's really cool, as always, book. Now, we also did have previews come out this week. That is the Diamond Catalog for pre-ordering forthcoming comics, toys and apparel from all over the pop culture scene. We'll review this on Tuesday of next week, including all of what I will likely be ordering. But I wanted to let you know I got that as well. So that covers things for today. So tomorrow, Booktober, day 29, Nevermore, Harold Schechter. That is our mystery novel with Edgar Allan Poe kind of filling the void of playing the role of Sherlock Holmes, and Davy Crockett, of all people, playing the role of Dr. Watson. Really interesting novel. We'll talk about that tomorrow afternoon, 1:30. Saturday, Booktober Day 30, we'll be talking about Retrograde, Peter Cauldron, it's a science fiction novel. And then Saturday night, we'll be talking about Classic Horror Movies Part 2. Part 1 was last weekend, but we'll be talking about Christopher Lee, Horror of Dracula, a couple of other Dracula films, or not Dracula, but vampire films as well. And then Sunday for Halloween, Booktober Day 31, we'll talk about Graveyard Wars and A.J. Lieberman and Andrew Sebastian Kwan. After that, we'll have a live draw, kind of a quick monsters jam piece or something. And then Sunday night, we'll have the Classic Horror Movies Part 3. And I don't know exactly which films I'm going to review just yet on that, but we'll let you know that probably tomorrow. And Grant says, have a good night, Lewis. Okay, well, hopefully. Now, for those who don't follow me on Facebook, just found out my cousin, who's 3 days younger than me, had emergency surgery on Sunday to remove tumor in their colon, and it was cancerous, and they have stage 4 cancer. So if I, for some reason, disappear, it's probably because I'm going to be, dealing with that. So I want you guys to know that situation real quick. There's not much I can really do for them, but hopefully they've gotten the mass out of the colon, but she's got to go through 6 months of chemo now to make sure, because it's stage 4 and it's probably spread throughout. So they're going to do the whole chemo for the next 6 months and see if how that handles. So not fun. But that being said, that's the situation. So in the meantime, if you liked this video, or you think others might, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from this channel. As always, I thank you for watching and for your support. If you want to reach out to me on social media, I'm on Facebook at Lewis.Brightraven, on Twitter at LewisBrightRave2. You can see my artwork at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Brightraven, exclusively on YouTube. If you have questions, comments, you'd like to commission some work from me, you have suggestions for topics for future episodes, email me at quotheravenlbr72@gmail.com. And if I don't get back to you within 24 to 48 hours, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. And that's all for now, folks. We will see you tomorrow afternoon to talk about Nevermore. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Have a good day. Have a good evening. And we'll see you next time.